Listen, I know every one of you is out there right now thinking about how to grow your business in 2025. And if you've listened to any of my content or you've been out hearing me talk here in the last couple months, I'm nervous about that. I think we think a lot about growth in our organizations, but we don't think about the structure. My last episode, I talked about event behavior structure and what Henry Kaiser did to transform the way ships were built in the United States from 244 days by the professionals to 4 days, 15 and a half hour by abject, complete, total amateurs. And he did it through a process of setting an aim, not a goal, but an aim. If you did something in 244 days in your business and you created a goal to reduce that, what would you do? Reduce it to 220, reduce it to 210, to 200? Yeah, okay. And then you would have left something on the table. What Kaiser understood is that focusing on making it better every single day is really where it's at. And this is what we're going to talk about today on the Process Fixer. So I want you to imagine for a moment your business as a garden. Now, if you've ever gardened, you know how it works. And I'll explain it all to you here just really quickly. First, you have to till the soil. You've got to set the thing up, right? And then you get seeds and you put those seeds in the ground and you hope that you'll get rain. And then those seeds materialize and grow fruit. But thinking about your business, thinking about what I talk about with event behavior structure, I want you to think about for a moment what those seeds are. That's the potential. I can have a pack of seeds in my pocket for years and years and years, but that seed doesn't obtain any potential until I put it into the ground. That's what happens with people. We're hiring people. We're looking at their pedigree, whatever it is. We're looking at what type of seed we need. We're placing that in the ground. And then for the most part, Western management, we just yell at it. We offer it a pizza party. We tell it to grow. We give it a pep talk. We hire a coach. If we don't get the results we want, we tear the seed out, we throw it away, and we get a new seed. And that other seed doesn't produce, and then we get a new seed, and the other seed doesn't do anything. Hopefully, if the right conditions are right in our business, we get enough rain and we get enough sunshine, and the pests don't bother it too much, and the groundhogs and the rabbits and the birds don't come in, and then we get a crop. And that's pretty much what Western management is. It's why we have a 70% failure rate for companies that focus on fast growth and trying to grow quickly. But there's a better way. There's a way of being a farmer in your business. So you plant the seeds and you nurture the seed and you make sure that there's the right combination of elements in the soil. You maybe have to get a little manure and put it in there, a little bit of fertilizer in there. You plant that seed, and then you water that seed. And then you go out and you check for weeds. And you make sure there's enough sunlight. There's no trees in the way. Growing up in Pennsylvania, we had a big garden, but we had a tree. And many times my dad would get up in that tree and hack pieces of that tree out because it would affect it. I have a garden here in Arizona. I actually can't anymore because my trees have gotten too big. There's too much shade now, which is okay when you're in Arizona. Trust me, you prefer the shade. I'll go to the grocery store to get a tomato. But the truth of the matter is that we have to think differently. We have to think about crop rotation. We have to think about resting the soil at certain times. We've got to think about fertilization. What happens if there's a pest? The natural process of process is not going to be enough. Maybe we could get the right result by just throwing the seeds into the ground and offering them pizza parties and giving them incentives and checking out their stripes on occasion and making sure that seed looks like it's a good seed. There's an element to that we have to do. You've got to inspect the seed before you put it in the ground. But we also have to understand that we are the farmers. And the situation, the circumstances, the ground, the soil, the water, the fertilizer, the nutrition, the pest control, all of those things, the seeds have nothing to do with. They are controlled by me as the farmer. And if my people are struggling, if they're not growing, if I'm not getting the crop that I'm looking at, is it a problem with the seeds or is it a problem with the farmer? I'm going to tell you it's the problem with the farmer. W. Edwards Deming, you've all heard me talk about him. 94% of all of the problems identified in 50 years of creating the greatest economy ever, the American economy in the 1940s, then going to Japan and creating the second biggest economy in the world and creating all these technological advances and all these kind of things. At the end of his career, he said 94% Of all of the problems that we saw, all the rework and waste, all the mistakes that people made, 94% would have been stopped if the process had been improved. I just wonder for a minute. Do you know in the last 100 years in the United States, the average take on an acre of ground has gone up by 10 times? Think about that. Instead of 1 tomato, 10 tomatoes. Instead of 1 bushel of corn, 10 bushels of corn. Almost. Now, some of it was done with the modification of the seeds. I'll agree. The seeds are better today. That's good. Seeds are better today. But irrigation, making sure we have the right fertilization in the ground, testing these kind of things, processing this stuff, the harvesting parts, all of these things are the results of the farmer. So I'm going to encourage you. This is a relatively short episode, but I want to encourage you to really be thinking about how you apply the lessons of the farmer to your business. Is it the seed's fault if the seed doesn't grow, or is it the farmer's fault? There are times it's the seed, but most of the time, I planted, anybody that's been to my place, I have all sorts of fruit trees and all sorts of things. And the reality is that I'm responsible for many of those things. If I turn my irrigation off here in Arizona, everything dies. So I've got to be very, very conscious of this. I don't want to yell at the seeds because they don't have potential. I want to make sure that I control the environment. I control what my seeds are coming up in. And that's where process really comes into play. If you've heard any of my talks as of lately, for me, it's all about the structure. It's all about the system. My new book's coming out. You can pre-order it now on our website. I'm going to sign the hardcover, these first copies. It's called The System. Why is it called The System? Because for so long, we have taken this Western ideology of management that for 74 years has dominated the way that you and I think about our businesses. And the reality is, it is fundamentally and functionally incorrect. We spend almost all of our time trying to manage people, trying to manage events, trying to psycho-manipulate behaviors. We don't focus on the structure. We don't have a process map that shows us how to get through from point A to point B. We're not having conversations with the employees, asking them what is standing in your way. We're not going out to where the seeds have been sown and looking at it and going, we've got pests. We've got this. We've got a disease that's coming through here. We're not listening to the ground. We're not listening to the soil. We're not listening to the people. We're standing aside saying, well, I planted those seeds 6 months ago. Why haven't they performed according to these KPIs? I need to tear all the seeds out and throw them away. No, we have to understand the conditions in which work is being done, and we need to improve those conditions. I'm working on a new talk right now. It's about something called the Hawthorne effect. If you've never heard of the Hawthorne effect, if you've never heard of what happened at Hawthorne and the Western Electric company in the 1920s, this was like the Silicon Valley in the 20s and 30s, was a company, Western Electric, the Hawthorne plants, and how the Hawthorne plants began to understand that we could improve the situation for the people. And by improving the situation for the people, we improve the outcome, because people want to have pride and joy in their work. I've only met 3 people. I can count them on one hand in all of my years. Thousands and thousands and thousands of employees that I've talked to. I can tell you there's been 3 people that I've met throughout that time that did not want to do a good job. They didn't want to do a good job. And probably 2 of them had psychological reasons for that. They were hurting on their own and they had problems. Most people want to come to work and be proud of what they do. They want to sit down at the table at night, and instead of when somebody says, "How was work today, Dad?" and grunting, they want to say, "You know what? It was exceptional. Today, I got a chance to analyze this information. We designed a new solution. I think it's going to improve our organization from the top down. I think it's going to improve everything around there." That's what we want. We want to engage our people not as soldiers in a war trying to bring us profit. We want to make them scouts. Go watch any old Western movie, any old Army movie. What happens when the scout comes back out of the field? The general drops everything. Come on in. Let me get you a glass of wine. Take a load off. Tell me what's happening. and they explain what's going on the battlefield, and then the general and their team update the maps. This is what we need from our people. This is what we're not getting from our people because our management ideology is broken. It is flawed. It doesn't make sense. And if you look at the history of it, it was designed to manage 17 million men that when you told them what to do, they snapped to attention, clicked their heels together, saluted, and said, "Sir, yes, sir." I don't know about you, but I don't have anybody that works inside my business that fought in a war zone in the last 24 months and knows how to be managed under command and control circumstances. My people have to be managed differently. They're a different lot of people, and they're much closer to what happened in the 1940s here in the United States, where completely and totally unskilled workers, men or women and children, elderly people, people that had already retired, came back into the workforce and had to be treated differently because they were different. If you're still managing by KPIs and OKRs and goals and all of those kind of things that were set up 75 years ago, and you aren't, listen, there's some place for it, I will admit, but if you aren't actively inspecting the conditions and improving the conditions in which the work is being performed, I can wholeheartedly guarantee you that things are not going well in your organization. You have an organization that's sufficient. I don't want sufficiency. I want efficiency. And then I want to move to resiliency because look, all of the economic indicators, go look at what the best economists have been predicting now for 22 years, right? Starting right around 2000, early 2000s, economists began predicting the 2030 Great Depression. And I just saw an update from some economists recently that said every indication shows us that we are right on track. 2030, Great Recession. It's going to wipe out a large portion of American businesses. And those that are prepared, those that are resilient, will do exactly what they did in 2008. They'll do exactly what they did in 1929. They'll do exactly what they did in the mid 80s and the mid 90s and 1938 and all the other times that we've gone through situations like this. They will be on the sidelines and they will be ready. And they will say, great, we have a highly organized organization that is resilient and profitable, and our competitors no longer are. So, do you want to just give us your keys? Do you want us to pay you anything for what you have? No, for the most part, there's an incredible opportunity that's coming in the next 5 to 6 years, and you have the opportunity right now today to begin to prepare your business for what is coming. Oh, but I'm going to sell before then. Great. Then think about the conversation you'll have with a buyer when you break it down for them and say, here's a list of the 10 things employees say that will improve their productivity by 10%. And here's all of the things that we've done. That's why our profit margins are significantly higher than any of our competitors. That's the conversation I want to have in due diligence. I worked in private equity. I was the due diligence guy. I'm the one that comes in and says to you in the first meeting, please present me all of your process maps. And you go, oh, we don't have those. And I go, oh. And I mark things down on a little piece of paper. And then I go back to my boss at the end of the day and I say, yeah, these guys aren't worth what you said you'd pay them. Why don't you just tell them 10% less? Because look, they don't even know anything about their business. Stop it. Let's get a plan together and let's start working on improving the conditions, fertilizing the soil, creating the trellises for things to grow on. You ever grow beans or watermelons or anything like that, or even tomatoes? You better have a trellis. Because those things will go all over the place. And then their fruit rots. Because it sits on the ground, it gets wet, pests get to it. We have got to figure out how to stop thinking about growth in our business and create a structure so that our organizations can naturally progress in a new direction. That's what I've been talking about the last couple of months as I've been out on the road. If you're in one of the markets like Memphis or Dallas or Chattanooga or Portland, Maine, you can come and see me. I'm talking about these things. I'm out on the road talking about this every single week. But we need to focus our attention. We need to put our gardening hat on. We need to get some gloves on, and we need to get a little bit dirty. I say it at my Vistage talks. People always say, well, we got to work on the business, not in the business. No. That is not what Michael Gerber says in the E-Myth. He says, systematize the entire organization, get into all the processes, fix them, improve them, document them. Then you earn the right to work on your business, not in your business. Don't cut to the chase. You don't just throw seeds out the window. You create the environment in which good work is done. All right. Until next time, I'm Derrick Maines. Check out the website. We've got a brand new website going on. There's exciting things happening starting over at Substack. We're sharing this over there. You can get in and comment, talk about that. I'm restricting some of my content now. Some of it's only going to Substack. This is part of the podcast, but we're starting to do some cool things over there. Check that out and buy the new book. It's called The System. It is not like anything you have ever read before. It is a philosophical book about business. It questions the philosophy and the logic of Western management and the approach that we have today. Now, listen, some people will say to me, I don't know about this. What are you trying to say? Throw away capitalism? No, not at all. What I'm saying is that nobody is directing capitalism. Capitalism is on the tracks going where it's going. Let's nurture this thing in the right direction. Let us utilize the greatest system ever created, capitalism, and let's couple that with the greatest production and management technique that's ever been known to humankind. What America did in the 1940s here in the United States. What took us, or the reason I'm not presenting this podcast in German today is because what we did in the 1940s was so outstanding in what it set up for the United States that we need to revisit that method of management we used during that time. And if you come out and see one of my talks, you will see it is very different. It's almost frustrating when you hear it because it is not what you have been taught about how to manage people, about how to organize your organization, or about how to get the results that you're looking for. I'm Derrick Maines, the Process Fixer. Until next time.
You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Process Fixer. Help you see the bigger picture. Derrick Maines is the elixir, cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.